another name for it that sometimes you'll hear is tree in a box. And you can kind of understand why it's called that, because it literally just looks like a tree sticking out of the sidewalk. And underneath all the plants, bioretention media. Are you familiar with that?
No.
So we'll look at a bioretention facility later as we're walking around today. But it's a special type of media that actually has the ability to filter out pollutants. So we want to make sure that when we're discharging water from the facility to the storm system, that we're not carrying any pollutants. So things like nitrogen, phosphorus, nutrients like that, or even sediment, which is a big pollutant here on campus that we have to deal with. So this facility actually has the ability to trap and hold on to some of those pollutants so they don't go into the streams and rivers. And this is one of probably about 15 of these that we have on campus. They're nice because they take up a very small footprint. So they don't take up a lot of area, and they kind of just blend in with the area and don't stick out and stand out like some of the other facilities do. But that's kind of a general overview of the Filterra. Do you have any general questions about how it works?
So where does the water go? It retains the water for how long?
Well, it kind of depends on how much rain we get. So the facility can hold a certain amount, but if it fills up too much, it's going to overflow and go into that next opening. So that's like the emergency spillway. So it just kind of depends on how much rain we're getting, at what speed we're getting it, to how much it can actually hold. Yeah, that's a good question. Like I said, we have several of these on campus. They're not very old. I only started seeing them in probably the last 5 to 10 years. So they're kind of a new DNP that we like to learn about. You want to go to a different one?
Yeah.
All right. Bob, any other questions?
No, I didn't know how much detail you were going to go into, like what to look for.
Yeah. Do you want to learn, like, so we would come out and we would do an inspection.
Okay.
So when I came out to do an inspection, I have an application on my iPad that'll walk me through a checklist of things that I'm checking for. So if I came out, I would be looking for, like, is there a lot of trash on the outside that needs to be cleaned up? We would actually look down into the grates and make sure that we didn't have a lot of buildup of, like, the leaves, because we are talking about trees, so they're going to drop their leaves, and organic debris is going to be carried when it rains. So we want to make sure that our box isn't filling up with a bunch of that, because if it fills up with that kind of stuff, then it can't hold the water like it's supposed to. One situation we have had with this facility specifically is the tree was getting too big for the grate. So we had to trim back the trees properly, and we actually changed out the top metal grate so that the tree would have a little bit longer life. So kind of it gets tricky with picking the right kind of tree to put in there so that it doesn't get too big. That kind of thing when you're looking at Filterras. And we do at Virginia Tech, we do those kind of inspections 4 times a year. You're only required to do them once a year. And we report that information to the Department of Environmental Quality. So all of our inspection reports go to them annually, and they look that over. They can come in and audit us and make sure we're doing those inspections, that kind of thing.
Sounds good.
And for maintenance needs, because these require a lot of things.
They do require a lot of maintenance, a lot of expensive maintenance, because myself, I can't just come out here and clean out the box that's underneath. We have to pay someone who is certified to clean that out. And here at Virginia Tech, we do that once a year. We check to see if it needs to be cleaned out once a year. But because they can fill up pretty quick, especially depending on where they're located. If you're around a bunch of like forests, big trees, stuff like that, you're gonna get a lot of buildup in there that has to be cleaned out, usually at least once a year, sometimes more.
Mm. Interesting.
So that's usually the biggest problem we see with filters is buildup, just losing their capacity because you've got too much down in that box. I think that's about it for filters. They're
Okay.
simple. Engineers like to use them because they're small and straightforward.
Yeah.
The problem is they are expensive.
So-
As is most stormwater facilities are expensive.
Expensive.
And they're aesthetically pleasing too, as long as they're
Maintained well.
maintained.
Hmm. Yep.
A lot of people walk by this and probably don't even realize
Yeah, I
what it
mean, yeah.
Yeah.
I just look at it as a normal
Don't you tell
tree.
your friends?
Yes.
Like, hey, that's actually doing something.
Wow, that's interesting.
All right. Now we're gonna go to what is considered a green roof, and if everyone's
Oh.
okay with just walking, we'll just walk.
Okay. Yeah, sure.
So this facility was installed well before I started working at Tech. I don't know a lot about its history. We come in once a year and actually get a permit to get on top of it, but unless we have that permit, we aren't allowed to walk out there. So even when I come out to inspect 4 times a year, I'm basically just doing an inspection from afar until we actually have that permit to go out on top. It's pretty, right now, there's a lot of weeds in it.
Yeah.
None of the species have really been controlled. It's kind of just what grows is what grows. We don't have anyone certified to come out and actually plant the right species. So it kind of is due for what we would call a retrofit. So we would come in and kind of like rip out the top layer and put in new media and new vegetation. They actually are on the list to be hit in the next time we have extra money. These will actually be addressed.
Okay.
And there's one on the front side of the building, which is, we'll walk over there, but it's weird because it's level with the ground, but it's still a green roof because it's over the basement of the building. And these are the only 2 green roofs we have on campus. Walk around front. There's some runoff coming in and then roof water, but even a normal person doesn't look like a green roof.
Roof, yeah.
How do you keep people out of it? We don't. Yeah, but
Unless you're going to look in a window.
you never know what causes honestly, this one's greener than the normal is. It's usually pretty brown. That passes completely through all these trees. And the plan is just to let this channel be natural. So the tall grass, the weeds, all that are supposed to be there. They're helping slow down the water so that the water's not just rushing straight to the facility. But that's all on purpose, a more natural look. And we'll walk around to the pond part of it. When we were designing this facility, we had a lot of issues with not wanting to harm any of the trees,
Oh,
because there's some really old growth trees in here.
mm.
So we worked with an arborist to make sure we were protecting those properly. So the water's channeled all through those
The
trees,
trees.
right alongside us. And then it enters into this ponded area.
Oh,
So the water can be retained here for a certain amount of time before it's released to the stream.
yeah, okay. Mm.
And you can, the water's really high right now, but you can see where the stream starts to enter,
Yeah.
or sorry, the channel starts
Channel
to
starts to
enter.
enter. Mm.
I don't know why that kid just popped out there. A little interesting.
So is there anything that filters the water that comes here?
What was the question, sorry?
Like any like the filter that we saw the other time, does the same thing happen there too? Like the water gets filtered before it's being released.
So this facility doesn't have that water quality aspect. It
Oh.
has more of the water quantity aspect.
Oh, okay.
So the main thought here is we want to slow down the water and keep it here for as long as possible
Mm-hmm.
before it gets directed to the stream.
Okay.
So that's where a stormwater facility could be for quality and quantity purposes
Mm-hmm.
or strictly for quantity. It just depends on what your facility is being built for. And this is actually considered a regional facility, so it's here for many of the buildings around it.
Oh, okay.
And something that would be interesting for you to do would be to come by here when we've had probably like 5 or 6 days of no rain,
Okay.
and to see how different it looks.
It looks okay.
Because it'll drain down slowly and release that water to Struble Creek, and it'll look totally different.
Okay. I'll check it out. Thank you.
We'll go across the road.
Okay.
And that grate you see is an emergency spillway. So if the water gets too high, it can enter that and it'll go straight to the stream.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So,
Bless you. Well, it really just depends on your site will allow. Will your site allow for something really big like that? Or do you need to put in a lot of small facilities? And that's what they opted for with this parking lot. And you've got inflow coming in right here. There's a concrete head wall there with a pipe, so it's cooling from the parking lot. And you can't really see the outlet structure because it's grown up, but it's over there. Because as you know, Struvel's Creek runs right behind those trees, so it's discharging straight to Struvel's Creek. You see it's holding the water back. So as we were inspecting this facility, we would want to make sure that we didn't have a lot of organic debris that was clogging the inlet, not allowing the water to come in, causing flooding, something like that. And here you can see the outlet structure. So I talked about how the other facility was too grown up, you couldn't really see it.
Yeah.
That's what your outlet structure looks like. If the water fills up too much, it will go over tap into there. You can make sure we don't have any obstructions over the inlet there. Nothing's blocking it. All the water can get in for the most part. That's what we're looking for. Called a sorry, that bus was really loud. Bioretention. So I mentioned that when we were at the first facility, the Filterra. This is basically just a larger scale of that Filterra. It obviously takes up a much bigger space, but it's that same concept. Under the grass and mulch and vegetation are those specific layers that have the ability to clean the water. So this facility has a factor of quality and quantity, not just quantity like the other two. Here we would want to be looking to make sure all the trees looked healthy, making sure that the facility wasn't super grown up. We can still access it. And there are some weeds, but nothing of major concern. Where I've worked here for a while, I know kind of the schedule that the grounds department works on, and I know they'll be getting to these soon to clean them up. But if it was something that was a problem, I would need to put in a work order and get it solved as quick as possible.
And do they have copies of the record drawing so they know what should come out or stay in?
No. We have so much turnover with our grounds department that usually isn't the case. What I'll try to do is I'll try to attach something like that to the work order so that they know that they don't just have them on the I think with our grounds department, that would probably be asking them to read something a little bit over their head.
So this facility
also a little unique because it has what we call a pre-treatment.
Treatment?
Pre-treatment.
Oh, okay.
So it's this small facility here on the side. So the thought is that the water will come to the pre-treatment area first and will then enter the larger area. That way any trash or debris or such will collect in the pre-treatment area and can be removed easier because it's going to be quicker and faster to come into a small area to remove trash and debris than to have to walk all over that.
Oh, that's
So that's the thought process there. With this facility, I probably would put a work order in for the growth that we have around that inlet. We've got quite a bit of organic debris with leaves and vegetation there that I would want to get cleaned out. And I have a student doing a research project on this facility right now, so that's what all the metal and wood that he's put in. That's all part of a project. So that's not typical here. Those were the facilities I had to show you for today. So I think that